So what is going on, y'all? Want to holler at y'all real quick. I see that the only way that I can get you guys to click on a video is if I put giveaway in the title. It's a damn shame. God damn it, man. Thought we was gonna stop doing nigga shit. Come on, y'all. We got to stop doing nigga shit. So, but just like I said in the title, I do have a giveaway. Because in the other video, I think I told you guys that you saw how I didn't reach my Patreon goal, and a couple more than a few people, they were signing up and they were getting the information and backing out. So I still have to reach that goal. So, but not on Patreon, I have to reach the financial goal that I was trying to get to. So what I'm doing for everybody, you heard that right, for the next 2 days only, I am giving away 10, not 15, that was 15, but 10. You saw me on, if you saw it on the Zoe show, and I think I mentioned it in the other video, I'm giving away 10 God classes, all right? 10 God classes. Or I will give you 5 God classes and 5 status classes, all right? So you get the best of both worlds on that. And also, so this is how I'm doing that. I'm giving away the 10 God classes if you order the Great Book of Melanin Research. So you're going to get the digital copy of that plus the hard copy. And I'm going to give you the constitutional rights card package. But also what I'm doing, this is a book I hadn't planned to release to you guys yet, but so the book I have coming out is called Official Police Bonds. All right, Official Police Bonds. And so, or Public Official Bonds. And so that's all of the information dealing with official bonds or the bonds that public officials need to have. That includes your judges, your district attorneys, police officers, sheriffs, notary republics. All of these people have to be bonded. The county recorder. So if you try to get something recorded in the county and they refuse you, you can pull their bond as well. So all of this information, this is the checks and bonds that the checks and bonds that the government has to ensure that your rights are protected. So most people don't think, or they just think that the government or people who work for the city and the government, they can do anything they want to you, and they can't. They absolutely cannot. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you, I'm going to read off some of the bond law from California so you guys can understand this shit is real. They have to abide by the law, or they get their bond snatched, and they have to have a bond in order to work. That's it, period. If they don't have a bond, they cannot work. that's how this thing goes. So, and if you pull their bond, again, they can't work. And I'm going to show you how their property, their real estate, their property are all tied to this thing. So if you pull their bond, not only can they not work, but most of the time, whatever property they had tied to the bond gets snatched up. It gets put on lien. So meaning it gets put on hold until they either pay for it or you get to take it. So this is some real stuff. People are getting police officers kicked out of precincts by putting liens on the whole precinct. This was one lady did that. So what I did is put together a book called Public Official Bonds. And so this is all the bond information that you need to know. In the Know Your Rights manual, I have the information on how to file a lien on the bond. And so it gives you an overview of what bonds are, and it gives you the step-by-step process on how to place the lien. But this new book, Public Official Bonds, is all the information that you need to know about public official bonds so that you can start to share this information and get everybody in your family, your friends, and your community up on the game. So once you start speaking these words when police officers pull you over, they're going to know you're real. So public official bonds, I'm about to take you through the bond law in California, just so you can see that this stuff is real. But again, I need you guys to cash mob. Before I get into that, I need you guys to cash mob me today on these books. Again, you buy the hard copy, the Great Book of Melanin Research, the hard copy. I'm going to give you away 10 God classes, all right? 10 God classes or 5 God classes and 5 status classes, along with the Know Your Rights package, and as well with the, you're going to get the digital copy. So also though, it's not just with you don't get the 10 classes just with the book. So if you buy anything that's over $100 from the Reelnagas store, I will also give you 10 God classes. So get in there. If you want to buy 10 God classes, I'll give you another 10 God classes for free. This is how this is go. So just so you know, you've seen the God classes I put up, 4 hours of information, just filled with non-packed information. So non-stop, full packed information. So you see how that goes. 10 God classes, that's about 40 hours of information that y'all have to break down and spread throughout the community. Also, the other thing I want to talk about is the Naga community. Somebody mentioned to me to start the Naga community on Facebook. I'm not on social media that much, so if you guys want to start the Naga community and then bring me in, and then I'll come in and and then I'll join and drop information whenever you guys want to have a forum or something like that. I'll be happy to do that. So I forgot we're in the we're in the new age. So this is the way we build. This is the way we have ciphers nowadays. So if you guys want to do the Naga community on Facebook, just let me know. Start that, and then I'll join, and we can have like a weekly session where we just break off information and stuff like that, because this information has to get out there. So again, thank you guys. Also, please just go keep signing up for the Patreon. This information, this bond information that I'm giving you, it's only usually for the Patreon people who sign up for the police law class. But I'm going to share this with you today because a lot of people don't really understand. You guys don't really understand how powerful this bond information is. It's like having kryptonite to Superman. It's literally, that's what this is. It's not some play around stuff. When you say bond to a police officer or a public official, their heart drops out of their chest, because they understand when they get hired, they have to have this bond. They can't even get hired until the bond gets approved. That's how important this stuff is. If their bond doesn't get approved, if the company issuing the bond doesn't get approved, they can't get hired. This is how important this thing is, because you cannot work unless you are covered in case you do some fuckery. So this is the way we have to have it. Just so give you an overview of what a bond is, or how a bond differs from insurance. Insurance is a two-party contract, to where, like, say if you have car insurance, if you smash into someone else's car, your insurance company pays. You get to keep your insurance, but your premium goes up, right? That's usually how insurance goes. With this is a three-party thing. You have one person, which would be in this case the city, who requires an officer who it hires to have a bond in case they mess up on their job. It's an assurance. So the city is the first part of the party. The officer or public official who has to have the bond is the second party, and the insurance company who issues the bond is the third party. So that goes, obligee is the technical term for the city or government who requires you to have the bond. The principal is the person who has to have the bond, the officer or public official who's required to have it. And then the surety, and then the last person is called the surety. That's the insurance company who issues the bond. So that's the three part. And how it differs is, in insurance, you get to keep your insurance if you injure someone, or you hurt someone else's property, or you damage someone else's property. You pay the premium, but you pay, or the insurance pays, but your premium goes up. As far as a bond, that doesn't happen like that. What happens is the bond company comes in and they alert you. So say a police officer, they violate your rights, and you place a lien on that bond, and then you go alert the bond company that you're placing a lien on that person's bond. What happens is the company will notify the officer and say, look, this dude is coming after your bond. You need to handle this, because if we handle it, what's going to happen. So basically, if the police officer or whoever it is, they can't pay, the bond company, insurance company will come in and pay, and then that officer has to pay the bond company back. If they don't pay them back, then they cannot work. Not only that, as I said, if they have property tied to that bond, the bond company takes all of that property. So again, this is really important. It's like credit, basically. You have to have good credit usually to even get a good bond. So this is how we're doing it. This is how we coming back at them. You tried everything else. You tried crying. You tried screaming from the top of the rooftop. You tried every damn thing. You tried fighting back. You tried holding guns. All of this, but you didn't try this. This is the most simple thing that was in the books for the longest. When you see these laws, you're gonna see these laws have been in the books since the 40s. Been sitting right there, all waiting for you to read, but you just didn't do it. So I'm about to share the screen so you guys can see some of these laws we're about to go over, and see how simple these laws are. But again, cash mob today, if you want that deal, I need you to cash mob, even if you don't want the deal. If you want to just donate, you know, you can just go donate to the PayPal, but I'd rather give you something. This police bond information is super important, and I'm giving it to you free if in the next 2 days, if you order $100 worth of stuff from the Reelnagas store, or you order the Great Book of Melanin and Research, the hard copy. All right, giving you all of that. You get the whole package. You get all of that with the hard copy package. But again, if you order $100 worth of stuff from the Reelnagas store in the next 2 days, I'm going to give you the Public Official Bonds book. All right, just created it. It's brand new, hot off the presses. All right, so you get to have that. But I'm about to share my screen and show you guys some bond law. Here we go. All right, so right off the bat, so this is the first law. This is the first law in the books. Now, these are all California laws, bond laws. So just to make sure when you go to your state, you're going to look up your own bond codes, right? And you should find them in the government codes. But right off the bat, official bonds shall be recorded in a book kept for that purpose entitled Record of Official Bonds. Unless otherwise provided, the official bonds of state officers prescribed by law shall be approved by either the governor or the director of general services and filed and recorded in the office of the Secretary of State. In most states, that's who will record who will have your bonds, or either the county or the county recorder. But make sure that you look up the laws in your state and find out where to get these bonds. Now, unless otherwise provided, the official bonds of officers of a county and judicial district shall be approved by the presiding judge of the Superior Court, recorded in the office of the county recorder, and then filed in the county clerk's office. So these are all places you can go and get copies of these bonds, of these public official bonds, as you see in these laws. This is for California. Again, wherever it says in your state, you'll have to look that up. After being recorded, the official bond of the county clerk shall be filed in the office of the county treasurer. See, the county clerk has to have a bond. He can't file his own bond in his own office. See, the bond has to be filed in someone else's office, so they can't do anything shady with it, like hide it, in case anyone publicly wants to come and get that bond. You're entitled to it, as we're going to read in a minute. So anyone required to have a bond can't file their own bond. Again, every officer with whom official bonds are filed shall carefully keep and preserve the bonds. He shall give certified copies thereof to any person demanding copies, upon being paid the same fees as are allowed by law for certified copies of papers in other cases. See, again, he shall give certified copies thereof to any person demanding copies, upon being paid the same fees. All right, so you go in there and you demand those copies of those bonds. When they try to tell you that you have no right to see these bonds, you pull that law up and straighten and show them. Nope, boom, boom, such and such law says, bam, this is public record. You have to give me the copy of these bonds. So again, the county recorder shall record the bond and return it to the county officer with whom it is required to be filed. Such officer shall keep the bond on file for 1 year following the expiration of the term of the office for which the bond was issued, at which time said bond may be destroyed or otherwise disposed of. Now here we come. This is where what's in the bond. What we just read before is how they handle the bonds, where they file the bonds, where they're kept. This is what's in the bonds. Now, all official bonds shall be made payable to the state of California in such penalty and with such conditions as required by this article or the law or the law creating or regulating the duties of the office. This is a big one. Every official bond executed by any officer pursuant to law is in force and obligatory upon the principal and sureties therein, meaning the bond is the people who are obligated to the bond are the principal, the one who had to get the bond, and the surety company, the insurance company. They're the ones who liable for the bond. That's what that just said. Now, in any and all breaches of the conditions thereof committed during the time. Now, let me go back. Now, when you're reading law, let me just give you a quick breakdown. When you're reading law, they do this on purpose. When you're reading law, they don't use many periods. They're basically run-on sentences so that you get confused as you're reading, because they blend ideas. And if you don't understand how to read law, because it is a language, you'll get confused and don't know where one idea, and you won't know where one idea stops and another one begins. So we're going to go through this and break it down and see what they were trying to say. Now, any and all breaches of the conditions thereof committed during the time such officer continues to discharge any of the duties of or hold the office, and whether such breaches are committed or suffered by the principal officer, his deputy or clerk, except that no officer of a county, city, or city and county, whose sole compensation by virtue of his office is fixed by salary established by the legislature. So what that said was, everyone who's liable under the bond is going to be liable if they breach the conditions of the bond, except if a public official's salary is fixed by law, meaning if your salary is written into the law, then the obligation falls on someone else, which they're about to tell you. So that officer won't have to pay if they're a part. Basically, if an officer's salary is fixed by the law, they're a part of the legislature. So then that falls on the obligation or liability that officer has falls onto the local body, which is saying now. So again, whose sole compensation by virtue of his office is a fixed salary established by the legislature, the local governing body or the board of supervisors shall be personally liable for the neglect, act, excuse me. Let me read that over again. The local governing body or the board of supervisors shall be personally liable for the negligent act or omission of any deputy or employee serving under him and performing the duties of his office, where the appointment or qualification of such deputy or employees is required to be and has been approved by the local governing body or the board of supervisors, or by the Civil Service Commission, unless the officer failed to exercise due care in the selection, unless the officer failed to exercise due care in the selection, appointment, or supervision of such deputy or employee, or negligently failed to suspend or secure the discharge of such deputy or officers or other officers, is what it says. I just didn't get the rest of it. So basically what that means is it's saying that this person shall not be liable if a person's, and it's basically all it is saying is the same thing. The officer who has to have the bond is liable, but then it tried to confuse you by saying unless their salary is fixed by the legislature. But then it went and gave you a caveat. Then it said, well, unless again that officer neglected to, he was wrong in his appointment of his officers. He neglected to supervise his officers correctly. He didn't follow up on a bad report by his officers. If all of those things that officer did, then he's still liable personally. And then it doesn't go back to the government. But basically all it's saying in here is that if an officer messes up, the bond covers that. That's what it's saying. So let's keep on moving. So, so let's keep reading. So to secure, let me go back. So unless the officer failed to exercise due care in the selection, appointment, or supervision of such deputy or employee, or negligently failed to suspend, failed to suspend or secure the discharge of such deputy or employee after knowledge of notice of his inefficiency or incompetency, and except that no state officer shall be personally liable for the negligent act or omission of any deputy employee serving under him and performing the duties of his office, where the appointment or qualification of such deputy or employee is required to be and has been approved by the state personnel board. Unless such officer, again, unless, you're going to see unless, it's basically saying, it's trying to confuse you. Whenever you see unless, it means he's still liable. So again, unless such officer failed to exercise due care in the selection, appointment, or supervision of such deputy or employee, or negligently failed to suspend or secure the discharge of such deputy or employee after knowledge or notice of his inefficiency or competency. Meaning, if you file a complaint, this is what it's saying. If you file a complaint and an officer violates your rights and you file a complaint and his superior officer didn't do anything, then that superior officer is still liable for the bond because he was alerted, he was notified, and he did nothing to correct his officers. He did nothing to correct the officer. He didn't fire him. He didn't discharge the officer or anything like that. And it does mean, and it says fire or discharge. You have to get rid of the officer. When the officer violates your rights and he violates the policies of the bond, they have to be fired. They have to go, or I'm taking the bond. So that's basically what that's saying right there. And then as you go and you read more, nothing in this section shall be interpreted as placing any liability upon the principal officer for the act or of a deputy or employee unless, there it is again, unless such liability is otherwise imposed upon the principal officer by law, which it is. It's saying he won't be liable for anything unless the law says he is, and the law does say he is. Nor shall this section be construed or interpreted as releasing or relieving such county, city, or city and county of any liability for the negligent act or omission of any such deputy or employee. Meaning, we're not saying he's liable, but we're not saying he's not liable. That's all it's saying. And see how many words they use to do that? That's to confuse you. But again, legalese. You have to learn it. It's a language. So, as you can see, hold on, I got more right there. Hold on. So these are all the rest of these are penal codes. So you can these are also you want to look the penal codes up as well in your state, because your bonds are tied to the penal code as well. If they violate your rights, that's going to be within that. So as you can see, we have more. Actually, I have more bonds. Sorry. So that was 1503. Here's 1504. Oh, wait a minute. I just read that. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. Hold on, bear with me. Okay. So, for the purposes of this chapter, a government crime insurance policy or employee dishonesty insurance policy, including faithful performance, may be provided as an alternative to the official bond or by any county or city subject to the approval by the presiding judge or the superior court, and recording and filing as provided in sections 1457 and 1460 inclusive. An insurance policy procured pursuant to this section may be used as a master bond as though it were an official bond, subject to the approval of the appointing power or legislature. So basically, what that said, let me go in because I have to go back into and get the other files. So basically, what you just saw right there, it said that the government may use what's something called a blanket bond or a master bond. So if the public official, if the law only requires the public official to have a bond, then they use something called a master bond that covers everyone who's employed under them. All employees, all other public officials, deputies, everyone is covered by that bond. Let me see. So here it is, 1501. The condition of an official bond shall be that the principal, the person who's supposed to have the bond, again, the condition of an official bond shall be that the principal will well, truly, and faithfully perform all official duties then required of him by law, and also such additional duties as may be imposed on him by any existing law of the state or law enacted subsequently to the execution of the bond. Right? So I'm looking for, hold on, y'all. Hold on. Oh, here it is. So whenever, except in criminal prosecutions, this is the most important one. Whenever, except in criminal prosecutions, any special penalty, forfeiture, or liability is imposed on any officer of a county or judicial district for non-performance or malperformance of official duties, the liability therefore attaches to the official bond of the officer and to the principal and sureties thereon. Did y'all hear that? Whenever, so let's just X out the except in criminal prosecutions, because they throw stuff like that in there to throw you off of the paragraph. So let's read it fully. Whenever, let's read it with that cut out. Whenever any special penalty, forfeiture, or liability is imposed on any officer of a county or judicial district for non-performance or for malperformance of official duties, the liability therefore attaches to the official bond of the officer and to the principal and sureties thereon. Whoever's on that bond, they're liable if the officer messes up. That's what that law just said right there. Any special penalty, forfeiture, or liability that's imposed on any officer attaches to the bond. That's what that just said. Now, let's get it even more. The officer whose duty it is to approve all bonds requires, let me get this in. The officer whose duty it is to approve official bonds required of officers of a county or judicial district not named in section 1458 shall not accept or approve any such bond unless the affidavit of each of the personal sureties on the bond contains a statement that the surety is a resident and either an owner of real property and a household within the county. Hold on. I got one more. Man, I lost my bonds. Hold on, y'all. Man, where did all my bonds go? Oh, I'm getting messed up because it keeps going through the recent. All right, here we go. All right. Let me just do this. All right. So now we're doing it. All right. Did I get all of these in here? Did I get all of them? God dang it. Let me see. Each such bond may contain provisions authorizing the appointing of power to count. So hold on. Oh, here it is. All right. This is the one. I'm sorry, y'all. So 1480 and 1481 are two of the main laws in California. And I wanted to show you this because you're going to have something similar in your law. So just make sure you find it. Every officer, agent, or employee not required by statute to give an official bond may be required to give an individual official bond or other form of individual bond in the amount to be fixed by the appointing power, and such bond shall inure to the benefit, and such bond shall inure to the benefit of the appointing power, state, county, or municipality by whom such officer, employee, or agent is employed, as well as the officer under whom the employee or agent serves. Basically, that just means the benefit, the beneficiary, or who the bond should be made payable to whoever requires that person to have the bond, whether it's the state, the city, the person's boss. That means because what happens is the liability falls on that person, the supervisor. So if a lower subject or a lower person has to have a bond, then that bond needs to be made payable to the higher power, the person that requires them to have the bond. That's all that's saying right there. And then it's saying it because if the law only requires the public official to have one bond. So say, I'll give you an example. Say if the sheriff, or if the law states that a sheriff or a county recorder is the only one required to have a bond, then that county recorder or sheriff may require each of their deputies to have an individual official bond. So meaning if you work for me, the law doesn't require you to have a bond. However, me in my position, I require you to have a bond so that I'm covered. So that if you mess up and you come back around and you mess up, then it doesn't fall back on me. So that's the law. That's what this is saying right here. And then, the appointing power shall obtain the approval of the Department of General Services. So that's just, the protocol for who authorizes the bond in California. But basically stating again that you may have to have an individual bond. So that's all police officers. So if it's under a police force, then if the police commissioner has to have a bond, and it's not a blanket bond, like meaning his bond doesn't cover everyone, then he would require every individual police officer to have a bond. That's just how it goes. So everyone has to be covered. No one escapes liability. And so here it is again. This is the next one. When deemed expedient by the appointing power, a master official bond or other form of master bond may be used, which shall provide coverage on more than one officer, employee, or agent who is required by the appointing power or the board of supervisors of a chartered or general law county to give bond. Just what I basically just said right there. If we don't have a master bond or a blanket bond, then you got to get an individual bond or you can't work for me if I'm a public official. So notwithstanding any other provision of law, when deemed expedient by the legislative body of a local public agency, a master official bond or other form of master bond may be used, which shall provide coverage on more than one officer, employee, or agent of the local public agency, whether elected or appointed, who is required by statute, regulation, who's required by statute, regulation, the appointing power, the governing board of the local public agency, or the board of supervisors of a chartered governing law county to give bond. A master bond under this section shall be in the form or for the term which is approved by the appointing power or the legislative body of the local public agency, and shall inure to the benefit of the appointing power, state or local government. So again, everyone has to have a bond. I'm just showing you the laws in California that state that they have to have a bond and they're liable for the bond. So everyone, this is just California law. In the book, in the Know Your Rights, in the Know Your Rights manual, I teach you how to find those laws within your own state. But right now, I just wanted to show you how that's real. That's California law. California's biggest state. It's the most populous state, which means it's about the most money. Our legal system is about money. That's basically what that means. So every legal system follows California in the world. So you're going to have similar laws to this within your state. So you just have to find them, and it works. So just wanted to show y'all that. I just wanted to show y'all that just to make sure that y'all understood that when I'm telling you guys about this bond stuff, it's real. But all of that information is going to be more concise in the public official bond book. And again, that's going to be free for the next 2 days for people. If you got to hit in Cash Mob, and seriously need the Cash Mob, because again, I didn't hit the Patreon goal. So, I know a lot of you out there been, on the fence, and you're saying you're waiting, or you were ready to get the book. So if y'all on the fence and you've been waiting to get the book, you're procrastinating, go ahead and get that book now. I'm going to throw in 10 classes. That's 5 guide classes. 10 guide classes, or 5 status classes and 5 guide classes. Can't give you 10 status classes. That information is too powerful, too important, and you wouldn't know what to do with it. So kind of has to be conditioned into it, so to speak, or slowly brought into that type of information. But again, today, Cash Mob, and you're gonna get that free. You're gonna get those free classes and the free Know Your Rights information. So that's about it, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all sign up for the Patreon. The classes are every Sunday. The police stop law classes are every Sunday. And just so y'all know, that is the best deal you're going to get, because each class, each class is $20. So you get to have 4 classes for $20 if you subscribe to $20 a month. So you're not going to get a better deal than that. And each class is about 3 hours. So I'm busting you with information. If you're truly serious about securing your rights, with police and knowing the law, you got to get down with it. All right, I'm gonna holler at y'all in a minute. Deuces.